risk in the brewing environment. Obviously, with stuff going on in the THC world with Ohio, with SB 56, changes a little bit of the discussion, but I kind of wanted to hint on it and kind of want to start there. I know Brett's been behind pushing to get this kind of banned, or the ban reversed that the governor vetoed. So I guess, Brett, we'll start off with you. What kind of give a little overview of what kind of happened and your stance and how it's really affecting you guys.
Sure. So going back to October of last year, where the Ohio Congress couldn't really get on the same page with how they wanted to regulate hemp in Ohio, DeWine went overboard and tried to get it banned. Now that obviously got overturned by some judges. And then they ended up crafting Senate Bill 56, which would have, if passed unchanged, banned anything over 5 milligrams in Ohio from sale, but left a safe harborage for manufacturing for sale out of state. However, when the bill hit Governor DeWine's desk, he crossed out a couple things that basically evaporated all that carve out that we had in Senate Bill 56 for beverage. So basically killing the hemp, the movement. So there was three things that initially went into effect to try to overturn that. One was a referendum on Senate Bill 56 that would have been on the ballot in November. If that would have got enough signatures, that would have put a temporary stop on Senate Bill 56 until after Election Day. That failed to get enough signatures, largely because we failed to raise enough money. They needed about $4 million to get 280,000 verified signatures, and I think we got like half of that. So that failed. The second thing was a lawsuit between Urban Artifact and 50 West, where we were suing Governor DeWine, and that went to the Ohio Supreme Court, where we felt very good about, we were challenging directly just the line item vetoes. There's, without getting into too much of the case history, there's a very long history of many different cases at the Ohio Supreme Court of governors trying to overstep their legal rights in order to change bills that hit their desk, which is against the Ohio Constitution. However, rather than ruling on it, the Supreme Court decided to just dismiss the case, which means we got screwed. Then the last thing was the Americans for a Healthy Alternative. Now this group is hemp broadly. It's not just beverages, so like gummies and all that other pre-rolls, things like that you see at stores. There's a lot more money there than there is in beverage. So they had more money behind them. They filed directly with a judge in Franklin County, basically saying that this bill goes against the Commerce Clause, which it does. If you're not familiar with the Commerce Clause, it basically says no state can impede any other state's ability to move products interstate that is legally federally. And since hemp is legally federally, you can't say you're not even allowed to have hemp products in the state at all because all these other states have it legal. The judge, clearly in their opinion, when they ruled against that lawsuit, don't understand what the Commerce Clause is. So the Americans for Healthy Alternative is elevating the suit to the federal level. They have also filed another suit going at a different angle of attack, still the Commerce Clause route in the state of Ohio as of yesterday as well. Both are looking to seek temporary restraining orders on Senate Bill 56 in order to take it to court in order to try to get a complete overturn. It is currently illegal to have anything over 0.4 milligrams per serving of THC in a hemp beverage in the state of Ohio unless something happens with these other two court cases. We feel as an industry, the hemp industry, we feel strongly that something's going to go our way at some point and this prohibition will end. But obviously in Ohio we are in currently a hopefully temporary prohibition, and broadly speaking on a federal level we kind of expect the same to happen there. And I can put my conspiracy hat on later if you want to talk federal stuff, but for now, yeah, I don't think we get out of this without some hopefully shortened period of prohibition before it comes back.
Yeah, I agree. And some of the articles I was reading, I mean, this affects over 6,000 businesses in the state of Ohio, so it's not something small here, especially to people who do not really pay attention to it. And I know it affects you. Can you go kind of into Urban Artifact's background on how you got into those THC or hemp beverages. Can you do
Sure.
that for me? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we started as a craft brewery. We were keeping an eye on the hemp landscape. I mean, everybody works at or with breweries. We all understand what everybody likes to imbibe. So we had some employees pushing for it very early on in the hemp stuff, and we kind of drug our feet for about a year, and then we got involved on the hemp side of production in 23 or 24, I don't remember exactly. And we launched our own hemp brand. You got to get licensed in the state of Ohio. It's like $500. You get a visit from the Department of Ag. It's extremely easy, and then you just got to make sure you do some paperwork, which is actually less paperwork than filing spirit excise taxes and tracking all that stuff. So it's not really that bad. We got into it. The market was obviously exploding at the time, and we had some pretty good early success. And then from there, there was enough people that were getting interested in it, and since we had our license and we had some excess capacity, because as we all know, craft beer is not exactly growing like it was 20 years ago, we started offering some contract co-packing for the hemp stuff, and then that's really how we got very much involved with the hemp industry, and kind of how Scotty, especially, and myself fell into the political side of the hemp stuff, and which is also why Niche Brand is our co-pack side. So I don't know. I think that answers the question.
It did, yeah.
Early 2024, we started to see the space was like something was happening. It wasn't my idea. It was our team's idea. And they came to us. If you guys don't know 50 West, very family friendly, lots of kids. We sell more milkshakes than we do light beer out of our tap rooms. So we thought that might be a space for it. We launched a brand August of 2024, and then we slowly started to see the momentum happen. We were real committed to low milligram, 5 milligrams was where we were. It was a big conversation in the space. What was better? Was it lower or higher milligrams? How does it sell? We launched a brand called Sunflower. We intentionally did that outside of our 50 West brand just because we weren't sure what was going to happen. And it caught on. This year, if we were keeping the industry open, we would sell more THC beverages than we would beer. So, and we're somewhere between the 3rd to 5th largest brewery in Cincinnati, somewhere in that range. I never know where we are, but somewhere in that range. So, yeah, landscape, as you guys know, there was a lot of legal things happening behind the scenes. Senate Bill 56 was sort of the big conversation piece. We were really involved in the getting that bill written, getting the laws put into place for that bill. We didn't agree with all of it, but we felt like it was a pretty good space. The best way I would describe it is we were probably asking to go like 70, 75, and they came back with a 65 speed limit. So still got to go on the highway, still got to drive. We were good with it. And then the governor obviously struck it out with a line item veto. So in the state of Ohio, your governor has the ability, if there's something called an appropriation, to cross out, to mess with the bill, essentially. Appropriation means taxes. So this is what happened was, so you have your bill, and in a bill there's a bunch of stuff in it. Very far over on this side of the bill, there was, the state of Ohio, when they passed marijuana, agreed that there was going to be taxation on it. But, so you guys understand it, it's like if I made you a bet, so if we bet $50, that I could jump and touch the ceiling, and then I jumped and tried to touch the ceiling, I didn't make it, and you're like, you owe me $50, and I was like, we didn't say whether I was gonna Venmo you or pay you cash or pay a check. So they had to write the rules for that, and so those rules were included in this greater bill. And because those rules were included, the governor then felt he had the right to change the bill wherever he wanted to. So what he did was, there was a bunch of language around beverage and how beverage was gonna work. And in Senate Bill 56, the way the beverage works is essentially if you have a liquor license in the state of Ohio, it would give you the right to be able to serve these products with a 5 milligram cap and a lot of other stipulations that were in there. So he crossed that out. That's where we are right now. If you guys aren't following online, saveohiobevs.com. We've had over 10,000 emails sent in the last 48 hours to our politicians, which is pretty amazing. We were hoping to get 1,000 when we started, so we're pretty excited about it. But it's asking them to override the veto, basically put the language back in, and let's go with the bill. So where we are on the political side now, we just got to go out there and fight and figure out how to make this thing happen.
Absolutely. Let's bring our third panelist, Mandy Donovan from Illinois Casualty Company. They are and maybe one of the first admitted insurance carriers to actually cover the liability side of the THC beverages. So Mandy, you can talk a little bit about kind of what you do for ICC, and then we can kind of get into that.
Sure. So I'm the director of compliance at ICC. I've been writing the policy form since about 2013. We write commercial insurance for hospitality risks, primarily in the bar and restaurant niche. And we saw an opening when cannabis dispensaries were getting popular. We wanted to go into that area. There's no admitted carriers doing that at the time, so we just went for it. And at the time we were doing that, we added a psychoactive drug liability exclusion to our coverage form so that we could offer this product on a program. So what we're doing now with all the THC, and this kind of started, Minnesota was the first state that had really the THC infused. And we had to do something about it because we write a lot of business in Minnesota. And so we came up with a way to remove the exclusion basically from the coverage form, and that's all we did. So if you can buy that exclusion back, essentially. You know, you gotta provide some information about, you know, your exposure and your receipts, and that's pretty much all it takes to get coverage for THC infused beverages with us. And then we also have, in the future, this year, should be this year, we have a craft beverage program, and it's got several tiers, but right now, alcohol is included in the definition of craft beverages, but we're removing that. So later this year, like, there will be brewery coverage for THC infused beverages also.
When you say brewery coverage, do you mean that you're just going to cover brewers no matter what they make?
Yes. So you could be like kombucha or
Whatever.
anything.
And it actually
Milk.
cover the process and the product inside the tank. So if something happens to the product while you're making it, or if you lose a batch or whatever, you can actually cover that on the insurance. Right now, it's currently not covered, but they're working on that. So I'm pretty excited to hear that.
And it's not covered because it's currently defined as alcohol.
Yes.
So guys, you're removing the alcohol exclusion, understanding that brewers in a changing landscape might be making more than just beer.
Right.
Wonderful.
Craft, whatever craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll switch a little directions here. Both Bobby and Brett, you guys have expanded, whether that's in multiple states or multiple locations. So can you guys, I guess, give me an elaboration on what you've done and kind of what problems can arise out of expansion, whether that's with the THC side or just just beer in general.
You want to go first?
You know. I mean, a big part of it is just compliance in general, making sure that you're paying taxes, you're signing up with the whatever Department of Commerce that you need to, where you're registering, you're reporting sales and movements as you need to. That's the biggest headache that we found. I mean, obviously it's the same headaches as in-state as out-of-state in regards to distributor relations and management is always hopefully wonderful for everybody that's working with a distributor. But as far as like just in general, especially with hemp, it's just figuring out what is legal in what state and what's required on what label. Are we talking about pack format, and do you need a label like, is it 8 milligrams for all four total in 4 cans, or is it 2 milligrams per can? What can be on the label and what can't? I think in the state of Florida, you're not allowed to put fruit on your label at all anymore. There's a brand out there called Climbing Kites who obviously had a kite on their logo, and one state told them they're not allowed to have kites on their logos anymore. So, you know, complete redo there. So dealing with that more than anything has been the biggest headache for us, and not getting your ass out in regards to having way too much inventory of something that is now illegal. So trying to find something that is both covers as many bases as possible, but also is able to switch quickly when, you know, inevitably the landscapes change. I think that's been the biggest problem for us.
Yep.
On the hemp side, I'm glad you went first because I didn't know how to answer any of it. I know. On the hemp side, I mean, it's so cool the space we're in right now. And I think when I first started brewing, so we started making beer in 2012, and I'd look back to those guys in the 90s and sort of like heroes of like, oh God, look at all the stuff they had to go through to figure out craft beer. That's really where we are with hemp right now. So the biggest issue you're going to have with expanding out into other states and whatnot is we don't have a federal governing body that oversees all this. So because there's a lack, every state's just making up their own rules. You can put fruit out over here. You got to have this piece of writing on here. So to be able to expand, it's not set up well. So what we have to do as a community and as this industry continues to grow is we have to help write these rules so that, you know, one state doesn't allow kites and the other one does. So if you have, you know, we have to get a community there. So if you're looking to get into the space right now, you need to be aware of that you're going to have to evolve with a lot of changes as you want to expand out in other states, or you just stay within your own state and you still have to deal with those changes that are coming every day. So it's a fun time to be in the space. If you're looking to be a trailblazer and you're looking to, I think the way I look at it is we don't even have a word for buzzed in this industry yet. So we know alcohol, we take it for granted, but I can tell you, if I told you I was buzzed and I told you I was drunk, you know what the difference between those two things are. If I eat a 120 milligram gummy versus I drink a 5 milligram, I can't describe to you what the difference in those feelings are, but I can guarantee you that 20 years from now, when this industry has evolved, we're gonna have words for this stuff, we're gonna understand it, and everyone's not just gonna be viewed as you're a pothead if you drink a 5 milligram beverage or something along those lines. So that's the land we're living in, that's the landscape, and as you try to expand out distribution in that, it's a very challenging time, but I'm a brewer, but for me, I love to get into the daily grind of being with my customers. The last probably 3-4 months, I feel like I had to turn into a politician, which is not what I signed up for, but what I can tell you is it's fun, it's a good space, and we're gonna get where we need to be. It's just, it's gonna take a little bit of time.
Sure, absolutely, thank you. As you were growing, at what point as an insurance industry, I always come across this randomly. A lot of people say, well, I just have to have insurance, right? At what point, or did you ever get, bit in the ass when you realize, oh shoot, I really need to pay attention to the insurance side? Because when you start, right, it's almost a checkbox where, oh, I forgot about this, I'm opening, I need to have it right now, versus, oh, I'm adding another location, or I'm going to a different state, or there's, my distributor wants certain limits of insurance coverage. Yeah, so at what point, essentially, did it become a major factor or priority, or you look at it in regarding your expansion?
Well, when we first started, it was important for us to, obviously, because we were bootstrapped, still are largely, into a loan, which gives us a lot of debt, which we still carry to this day. And as a result, if we lost a tank of beer, it could potentially be financially catastrophic for us. So finding somebody that was able to offer the protection we needed from a liability standpoint was extremely important for us. It's just actually how I landed with James and, Ryan at the time. So from there, really what it was for us was just autopilot for a very long time. And then we ended up switching away from James for a little bit over to a different supplier, and then we got into hemp. And once that supplier found out we had hemp, they immediately dropped us. And that's when we realized that, insurance isn't to be trifled with. Because, when hemp was getting going, no one was even touching it. Like Illinois Casualty, thankfully, it was on the vanguard of getting in front of this stuff and not treating it like it's some giant stigma. Like they understand that people are going to do what they do, and it's what's the difference between THC and alcohol at the end of the day? It's not much. So before that, though, there was nothing. There was nothing out there, and was the secondary markets, is that what you called it? Where the non-standard markets exists, which you may not have even ever heard of. But basically, it's a bunch of really, what feels like to me, sleazy ass companies that understand they got you over a barrel and they're gonna charge you whatever the hell they can get away with, which for us was over double. Now, we were already paying a lot of money for insurance because, while we are still a small business, we're not that small, so we were paying in the low 5 digits for our insurance coverage, and it went north of $50,000, just like that. And we were stuck. Like, what choice did we have? We needed insurance, or our bank was going to throw a fit about our mortgage and the loan that we had. So that's when it really became apparent to us that, like, this stuff needs to be taken care of. There's dollars to be saved there too if you're aggressive with it, and you got to be careful with what coverage you're getting and what you're not. So I think that was really when it hit our wallet is when I really understood the full extent.
Yeah.
Coverage, I can tell you that you want to make sure you're protected in certain ways, but it's also the other thing that we ask ourselves constantly is like, hey, we also want to make sure we have too much coverage, right? Because you have to pay, you have to figure out that piece. So I think it's something as a business, if I'm being completely transparent, that we're still trying to explore and understand. It is important though. We have gotten hit with times where we had to go to we just got robbed like I don't know, a month ago when somebody coming into our business stealing checks. I didn't know this, but you can just cross 50 West off's name on a check and write your name and cash it. So we were having that happen, and we went to our insurance carrier, and it was covered underneath our coverage. So
Good.
one of those things that we were happy was there. So the biggest challenge in insurance that we've dealt with is there's a lot of purchasing of insurance companies as it goes. So since we've been in business, I want to say we're probably with like our third or fourth company. Now the guy it's the same person that's been selling to us the whole time, but it is a little uneasy every time, it switches over and you kind of go like, well, wait a sec, are we still going to be okay here? Is this,
Sure.
how does this work?
Yeah. We'll switch a little more gears here, and I kind of want to talk about the processes behind the beer side, but also the THC. I mean, how often are you reviewing your process with your team? Are you guys keeping data on, what you brewed, when you brewed, just in case there is like a recall issue down the line? But yeah, kind of talk about your processes on the beer side and possibly THC side as well.
Yeah, I think that as a company, it's important for all of us to make sure that you're covered for basically anything that isn't a brewer mess up. And things happen. Equipment can go out. Your glycol chiller could go out in the middle of a lager fermentation. And now that batch is toast. You can be covered for that if you choose to. If you get a bad pitch of yeast like we have before from a prior supplier, you could get covered for that. There's ways that you can be protected, and it's important to know that. And just in general, as far as like the recall stuff goes, no matter your size, you really need to have some GMPs, some good manufacturing practices written down on paper. And a part of that is a recall plan. And you need to be tracking everything you're doing for taxes anyway. And what I found is as long as you're doing your job as a brewer, writing dates, paying your taxes, and you have a recall plan written down, you're gonna be in a good shape should you have to end up recalling something or something, the worst that can happen. And then when you inevitably go to your insurance carrier, you can provide them all the data that they're gonna ask for, because they're gonna want a bunch of stuff.
What I've learned over my almost 15 years in this industry is that processes for everything are a good thing. We're down to, at this point in our business, we have processes for what our customer walks in the door, what our expectations are from the minute that they walk in all the way till the minute they leave. I don't think we had those till, it took me 13 years to put those in place, but I can tell you the sooner you put them in place, the better your business is going to operate, the better your team is going to have an understanding of what they want to do. Ecos from a software standpoint, if you're talking about brewing, is a great tool. Obviously everybody has their little problems with their software, but overall, I think it allows us to keep track of everybody can see where things are, how they're moving, and when you build that out appropriately, it's good for your business.
Yeah, for sure.
That is probably one of the single best things we've done in the last year was I put somebody on that as a full-time responsibility, and Jesus Christ, it's made such a huge difference.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's a big, if you're not using Ecos or not using somebody's software, it's highly recommended.
Yeah, absolutely. Mandy, a little bit on the claims side, and you don't have to get into the boring details, but what Brett brought up about recall and having right amount of data and all that available, can you speak to that and how that helps the claim process and how quickly a claim can be paid?
Yeah, so I think some of the main information they're going to want to know, obviously, is where it went, how much money you're losing, obviously, how much money you would have made off of that product when it was sold. And then I was kind of piggybacking off some of your examples because I was thinking we do have some other, I have some like merchandise withdrawal. I had like a defective beer canning machine caused several brands of canned beer to be recalled, or a cold brew tank sustained a crack which allowed the oxygen in. So the beer was defective, but they didn't know it until after it was distributed. Some other things are, like product leakage, like leaks in the tank, contaminated yeast, contamination coverage, bacterial spoilage, and then, damage to in-process craft beverage products is a coverage that we see some claims with, and mostly that's like power outage or, maybe you like moved your lever where it shouldn't have been, and so your product is it's spoiled, or, your glycol system failed, or that's just some of the...
On the process front, I have just a funny one. So we got robbed. We talked about this. When the insurance companies come and talk to you, that you really can feel like an idiot with some of the stuff you do. So like we got robbed, and we're like, they stole the checks and they crossed their name out, they wrote their name and cashed it. So they came in like, well, how'd they get in? And we were like, well, okay, so Dave comes in later in the day, so we always leave the back door of the cooler a little bit open for him. And this guy used to work for us, and he knew that Dave did that, so he was coming in through the cooler door. And then they're like, well, where'd they get the check from? And we're like, well, the guys just put it in this bin that's kind of out in the open because there's no cash there, and we didn't think that they would cross their name out. So it's one of those where now we have a safe. And we gave Dave a key to get into the building. And so I'm sure you guys as insurance companies, well, maybe you don't deal with, maybe we're just total idiots, but I'm assuming that maybe you deal with these kind of things.
Oh, we've had a few of those over the years.
All the time. So
yeah.
it points out quickly where your lack of process is and kind of makes you straighten up a little bit.
Yeah, and we do have loss control, like every risk that we write, we have an inspector, a loss control person come out, so they point out things where maybe you might want to put a different process in place or make changes that would be more advantageous if you had a claim. So.
Yeah, on our end, from the agency standpoint, we've built out a lot of those processes that we've borrowed from clients and the insurance carrier. We go, hey, how can we help our client, A, save on premiums? What processes do you guys want to see that either helps mitigate a risk, can prevent a robbery from happening, and then having you guys put that process in place and then sharing that or telling that story to the carrier to help those premiums stay level throughout the year. Which is very important, and not a lot of insurance guys do that. So, yeah, our goal is to obviously have the right coverage, and when something happens, it is paid, but also prevent anything from really happening, so that your insurance score and your claims history down the road. I want to talk about, because I don't see it too much in the brewery space, but with multiple locations, I know liquor liability is a huge issue, right? We all know not to get behind the wheel of a car, but you still have certain people that decide they just want to drive home after having a few drinks. And back to procedures with your staff, and a lot of the handbook stuff comes into play here, but talk about what procedures you guys have to help put your staff through training and kind of recognize someone that's either been overserved somewhere else or has been overserved in your space, and kind of what steps you do to prevent an accident from happening.
Our training's come a long way over the years from where we started. I think when we started, we just told the bartenders to have some drinks behind the bar and enjoy themselves, and they were just as much at the bar as the customers were. Yeah, over time, we've training manuals that we go through. The biggest thing, bartenders are liable just as much as we are. If you serve that person and something bad happens, they're on the hook as well. And I think for the most part, that usually makes them aware. Our staff is wonderful with it, if I'm being completely honest. We haven't had any issues, knock on wood, with any of this. They're quick to identify it. You still run into I think for us, a lot of times it's creating systems for your bartenders to help them through dealing with those customers when they come up. We've had, and our staff has come to us with recommendations before. Example, if somebody's being harassed at the bar, I think our staff, they created a little card that we keep in a drawer that you can hand to the person. Like, if they see something out of hand, they can hand it to the person that says like, hey, we know what's going on. Meet me in the bathroom and we'll step aside. So we have it as part of our training manual. It's documented for the insurance companies, so when they come through, they're happy with what's going on.
Yeah, serve safe as well. It's a great one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if you're not using ServSafe, it's a wonderful tool. We use it. I didn't even bring it up, but we use it across all of our. For a while, I thought that I had to come up with all those rules and regulations, and then we were like, oh my God, there's literally a company that does this. So yeah, we use ServSafe certification. All of our managers are ServSafe certified, and to pretty high degree, and then we have different levels for our kitchen staff.
Let's do a couple more here. We can jump back to the THC side, because I have an interesting question. I wrote this question because I want to know. I don't know if it'll benefit them, but I guess, what did you underestimate about the THC industry when you first entered? And I know you said, maybe in 20 years we'll be in a different space and look at it differently, but what did you kind of underestimate when you kind of first got into it?
The biggest thing was, it's a new market, so it's determining what white space do you want and how do you set yourself apart, and then also the realization that at the end of the day, there's not much difference between beverages. It's just formulation, right? You're mixing water with some varying degree of sugar or fake sugars or no sugar with some flavorings and whatever strength you want. And then it's really coming down to the skill of your salespeople and your marketing and design people. I think Sunflower is a fantastic example of something that just perfect name, great logo, pops on the shelves, really clean design, gets the message across in that 2 seconds as a consumer that you're looking at. That is the differentiating factor that is going to set everyone apart.
And great taste. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, that's actually my point, is that it's not like beer where it doesn't really take that much skill to make great taste. It doesn't take a lot to make something taste good that's not fermentation, because there's nothing that you as a brewer have to do or understand from a science standpoint. You can either just pay someone to come up with some generic formulation, or you can just throw it together, try it, and make some quick changes and just do it. But figuring out what position you want in the market and how you're going to own it and how you're going to defend yourself, your brand, against other people coming into the market and trying to do the same thing you're doing is really like getting that foothold, you know, and first isn't always best in a market either. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase of like, what is it, pioneers get the arrows and settlers get the land type situation. So just because you're first doesn't mean you're going to own that market. So just be aware of all that stuff, that you're not special because you're out there first. What's going to set you apart is how good you are at executing.
It's interesting to hear other people speak on it. They, as somebody who did not come up with the idea to launch this, and nothing, it was our team driving it. I think I've had more fun with THC beverages than almost anything in my career. It's a really neat space. It's a completely different. It's misunderstood. The customer, I think that was the biggest piece, was the customer, who they were, what they wanted. A 5 milligram beverage is definitively better than, or not better, definitively different than a 50 milligram beverage. I didn't understand that when I started. But I think that if we want to talk about hemp and we want to talk about beverage as a whole, I think that the future of beverage is going to be very specific about occasions. So we're not even talking about hemp versus alcohol. We're talking about what's the occasion that you want to do, that you want to define, and how do you want to feel. And I think that's a product of the way that we grew up. And so I think that you go back to grandparents that grew up with orange juice and milk, then you have the Gatorade generation, then you have, the energy drink generation. But as these generations grow up, go in to be able to go to Starbucks and create whatever they want, people are very specific about how they want to feel, how they want to taste, what they want the calorie count to be. And I think that the THC hemp beverages are one of the first steps into this transition that we're going to be making. So I've loved it. It's been a blast. And when I started this, I just thought we were making drinks with potheads. So anyway.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to Mandy, Bobby, and Brett. Appreciate your guys' time.